from XL Air Systems. Today I'm going to show you how and where to hook up a gauge set to the Evolution Series system. So it's a little bit different than your conventional system where you have a suction and liquid line at the outdoor unit. That is not the case for our system. Our suction line is only in the air handler where the compressor is mounted. So we've actually supplied two ports for testing your low and high side or liquid and suction pressures. The ports are labeled and covered with access caps. Okay, so we're going to use a gauge set that is rated for R410A. Very simple set. We're going to ensure that both valves are closed clockwise before we hook anything else up. So we're going to lay the gauge set down and we're going to take our blue or low pressure suction hose and we're going to hook it up to our suction port by removing the access caps for our suction and our liquid port. Attach the blue hose with the bent end and Schrader depressor installed in it to the suction port. You may get a small hiss while connecting. Continue to tighten, finger tight. And for our liquid side or high pressure side, we're going to attach our red hose, again the bent end. Ensure that you do have a Schrader depressor, a small brass pin in the end of the hose. Small hiss is normal. It's easier to do this with the system off than it is on, but both are doable. The pressure you're going to read, you always want to read in PSI. The scale out here, PSI. The off pressure is going to be much different than the running pressure. They should be fairly equal to each other, and typically higher than this one's reading here as this system's already been evacuated. Next, I'm going to show you what this looks like on a system that is running. Okay, so now we have the gauge set attached to a functioning system. This is one in our test booth that we've been vigorously testing, and we'll notice now that the pressures are actually much higher. So again, we're going to read the outer scale in PSI. Each gauge is different and your PSI may not always be the outside scale, but ensure that at the end of the scale it does say PSI. So right now you'll notice on our low pressure suction, we're reading roughly 180 to 190 PSI. You'll also notice that the liquid side or high pressure is very similar. This is with the system off. We're going to turn this system on in dehumidification mode. What you'll notice is the gauges will begin to react. Our low pressure suction gauge will begin to drop, and our high pressure liquid gauge will begin to rise. These pressures are not like a fuel gauge in a vehicle. The pressures are relevant to different temperatures and different room or surrounding environments. Typically, we're going to run between around 100 to 150 PSI on our low side suction, depending on the returning air temperature. And our high side liquid pressure will be roughly 225 to 400 PSI, depending on the outdoor environment. What is the outdoor temperature or the temperature surrounding our condenser? Now when we turn the system back off, you'll notice the gauges begin to equalize. It may take a minute, but it will eventually equalize. This would also be the safer way to remove your gauge set when finished. Give it about 5 minutes rest before attempting to remove your liquid line high side pressure to increase that there is less liquid and low pressure while removing.